Hey guys, what's up? My name is Mike, but you know me better as historical fiction author Eli Kale. If this is the first video of mine that you're watching, then welcome aboard. Today I'm going to be talking about brainstorming in terms of writing process. I mentioned in my last video that I'm going to be putting out videos about once a week, and they will be dealing on my writing process, just my personal experience, because every writer is different and we don't all have the same way that we go about writing, about brainstorming, planning, rough drafts, editing, things like that. So I'm going to talk about how all of that works in my writing life and how I do it personally. If you're a fellow writer and you have a way of doing it yourself and you don't think that something I do is a good way to do it, or maybe you find something that I do, it might work better for you, and you might think, oh, I'll have to give that a try. Great. If not, that's awesome too, because the whole point of this is just to put my work out there and my way of thinking out there, and you can take it and do with it what you please. Okay, so basically brainstorming, as you probably already know, is just the process of coming up with an idea, and you more likely than not will go through a ton of ideas before you land on one that you think you can take and run with it. For my first book, Resistant, I didn't really come up with the overall idea of the story until I don't know, maybe 2 months into the brainstorming process. I had an idea of what I wanted to have happen, but the actual way that it played out in the final version of the book didn't come along until a couple months after I started actually working on the project. Everybody brainstorms differently. One way that I brainstorm, and what I'll share with you today, I have it on my laptop here, I'll show you. I don't say I watch a lot of movies, but when I do, I try to pay attention to things that I might be able to put into play in my projects, they can put into action there. Not necessarily, obviously, taking the exact same details of a specific plot in a movie and putting them into my books. That's not, that's not the point. But you just take ideas and little details of things, and I just jot them down, whether it's on a notepad or on my computer, but they eventually all end up in this. So this is what I have in my computer. It's a running document, and there are other things in this document, but for now I'll just focus on this point here. You can see here, up here, it says objects and things. Over here it says settings, and that's pretty much what it is. So if I come up with an idea or I see something in a movie or read it in a book or talk about it in conversation with friends, and I think, oh, that might make for a cool part in a plot, I'll write it down. And then, like I said, whether it's on a sticky note or I type in right in this document, it eventually ends up here. And so you can see sleeper cell, a trigger man, something with firing missiles, that kind of thing, ransom character. Obviously you can read it for yourself, but things like that that might be able to have a part in my plot potentially, I write them down. Settings are very important. Again, it's the same idea. Anything that I think about, whether it's something that might be exotic, like a river. I had jungle written down in here, but I took that out because I'm using that for an idea for a short story. And that's the other part of it too. Once you use something once I use something from this list, then I take it out, because I don't want to use the same idea a lot, over and over again. You don't want to keep recycling the same idea. So if you don't have a really good way, or at least in your opinion, if it's not good, of getting your ideas down, because that's the first part of coming up with a story, is if you don't have an idea, you can't develop it and you can't make it grow into something more, which then will become a story. So if you don't have an idea, you might want to give this a try. It's nothing, it's not rocket science. It's just writing ideas down that you think might be able to have potential, and then just go with it from there when the time comes. But in my opinion, it's good to have a running list like that, because you know that you always have some pool of resources and ideas that you can resort to when the time comes, where you need inspiration for your plot to move it along, or to introduce a character, or explore a setting, anything like that. You can take that idea I just showed you and develop it as it's comfortable for you and as it works for you. But once you use something, then it's good to, like I said, it's good to take it off the list. That way you don't keep recycling the same idea. Now obviously if it's a story or a series or something that takes place in the same setting, because it's pertinent to the story, then that's different. Sometimes you'll use an idea, sometimes you won't, but it's better to have something like that than to stare at a blank computer screen and expect something to jump out at you. So that's kind of my 2 cents about brainstorming. Another thing I wanted to talk about today is something I already alluded to actually, when I mentioned about gaining ideas from other things, whether it's movies you watch or books you read. In my opinion, and this is a shared idea by many authors, especially indie authors, is to read books by authors in your genre, or something that's very close to your genre, because then you can see how other people elaborate their ideas and how kind of the structure of what books that are similar to yours, what they look like. I didn't really do this as much when I first started writing. On my first book, I just kind of went in with my idea and I started writing it because part of me didn't want to subconsciously gravitate toward an idea and then end up using that idea and really latching onto it and not really making my story my own. And another part of me just kind of wanted to see what would happen if I just kind of did it myself and not really looked at other ways that other books are done. A good way to elaborate this idea is to say that there are genres that have certain conventions or certain things that are in place that are kind of accepted as more like guidelines than actual rules. For example, in historical fiction, obviously it's fiction, but there is some history in it. My first book, Resistant, for that what I did was basically come up with the way I wanted the story to go, the plot, but I had very few fictional things. The characters and their specific the specific events that they experienced, the things that they did, those were all fictional, but the ideas behind them, the history behind them, were based on actual events. So what I'm saying is, in this instance with historical fiction, it's good to read other books in that same genre if you're a historical fiction author, because you can see how other authors reveal their history and how they weave their plot and their fictional characters or just whatever fictional elements that they have into the non-fictional history part of their story. The last thing I want to do today, which I want to do in every video that I put out, is have a quick promotion moment where I promote a fellow author, something of my own, or I won't do that too much, but just something to where I'm helping out other authors or other indie artists in the writing community. So for today, I want to talk quickly about a book that I finished reading this past year called Constantinopolis. It's by James Shipman. I'll include the link in the description, and you can check it out if you'd like. It's a really good book. It's about the Ottoman siege of Constantinople, which is current-day Istanbul in Turkey, in 1453. If you know anything about history in that time period, in that area, the Ottomans were trying to expand their empire, and they had reached the city of Constantinople, and they laid siege to it. So that's basically the gist of the story. I won't give away any details, any spoilers or anything. So go check James Shipman out. Really good author, really good book, and I really recommend it. Well, that's it for today, guys. Thanks a lot for watching. If you liked the video, please give me a thumbs up. If you're not a subscriber yet, click that subscribe button, and we'll see you next week.